Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for JobNimbus 101 workshop on contacts, tips, and tricks. We're happy to have you. My name is Colby.
My name is Daniel.
I'm Logan, and I was on mute. We're happy to have you with us.
As Colby said, we're going to be talking about contacts, and specifically, we're going to be giving you tips and tricks to take your JobNimbus experience to the next level. We're going to be talking about how to make customer data work for you, adding custom fields to capture the data that you need that's specific to your company, sharing contact files with people outside your JobNimbus account, and viewing activity in ways that make sense to you and your team. Now we're going to be jumping into JobNimbus here to show you everything in a moment. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in to either the QA section or the chat. Colby will be monitoring that, and either we'll be answering questions or saving them for us to answer here in the webinar. And we'll be taking questions at the end. We'll give you time to raise your hand if you want, and we'll call on you and you can ask your question, and then we'll answer it right there in the webinar. So without further ado, drum roll please, let's jump into JobNimbus.
All right, so you can do a lot of things in JobNimbus, but the heart and soul of the program is the contacts. In your contacts is where you'll store all of your information and all of your data. When you jump into a contact for the first time, the first thing you'll see is the contact information pane here at the top. On the far left, you'll get the information about the contact, like address, name, phone number, things like that. In the center, you'll see all of your custom fields, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And on the right, you'll see the workflow information, what workflow they're in as far as type, what their status is, how long they've been in that status, and so on and so forth. Underneath, you'll see a number of different tabs. The Activity tab gives you all the information about notes, emails, and any changes that have been made to the contact. If you have jobs enabled, you'll see jobs, which are work you're doing for the contact at different addresses. You'll get your tasks, both your open and your closed tasks, any documents and photos that you've added, financial information that you've created inside JobNimbus or that has synced over from QuickBooks, like estimates, budgets, material orders, and so forth. And finally, if you have work orders enabled, you'll see work orders, different trades you're doing at the house. For instance, gutters versus roofing versus siding versus windows. Now, something that each of these has in common is this gray bar at the top that has the name of the tab, for instance, Activity. And then a number of little doodads. The first doodad is your categories. So Activity is normally set to user created, which will show you things like emails and notes, but we can get very specific. Say, I only want to see what notes have been made here lately. Or we can go very, very broad. I want to see everything that's been done. This will show me things that I won't normally see in the user created, like system activity. And system activity will count as anything that's changed. I can see who made the change. I can see what they changed, like the status change from material order to in progress, as well as what time that happened. Here in our support department, we often use the All tab to see everything that's happened and in what order it happened. But that can get pretty confusing. Luckily, we do have a fantastic search feature that allows you to find particular things. So if I want information about anything that contains the word meeting, and if I can spell, then I can type that in. I'll get all my information on meetings. If I want to see anything about calls, I can type in call. Here's my request to call Gina, but I don't see that any calls have necessarily been made. And yep, I look at phone calls. No calls have been made, at least as far as being recorded in JobNimbus. At the end, you'll see the Add Note button. This is going to change based on the tab we're in. For instance, if we're in Photos, then we'll have an Upload a New Photo button or a Download All Photos button. But a lot of this remains the same. Now, the last really neat button we have here is the Related button. This will let you see things that are tied to each other, and Dan's going to explain exactly how that works.
Yes, thanks, Logan. So the Related button is actually a really cool feature that can take your contacts to the next level. And that feature is called the Related Contacts feature. This feature can help you connect contacts together so it's easy to move between them and see the documents and activity that you need to see all in one file. You can relate a contact to another by opening the contact in the Edit Contact window and add the contact. Let's switch over to Jane Smith here and look at Jane Smith. So after pulling up Jane, what I'll need to do is click on the 3 dots here in the upper right corner of the information panel and select Edit from the action menu. Now we'll go over this action menu a little bit later, but let's just quickly select Edit to pull up the Edit Contact window. You can then add the related contact into the related contact text field right here under the assigned to text field. And if you have subcontractors enabled, you'll also see subcontractors there. So let's relate Gina Smith. After I type in her name and then click on it, I'll have to scroll all the way past these custom fields. We'll also talk about those in a little bit and click Save. So once that's saved, you'll notice that the first thing you might notice is that Gina Smith's name is right here in the Related Contacts section in the Activity tab. There was also a note made in the activity feed about this change. So if we go to All, we can see that Gina Smith was related to Jane Smith. There's also a couple of other things that have changed. So let's look through Jane's file real quick. You might notice that there are more documents in Jane's file now. We'll also see that there are more financial documents, and we can control what we see in Jane's file with this related checkbox that Logan talked about earlier. And this right here, when you check this checkbox, it'll show the activity and notes or documents from both files in the same file, in Jane's file. And I'll also show it in Gina's file. So if we come down here, we can see that right here is that note that Logan pulled up earlier of please call Gina, but it's in Jane's file. We can also pull up the financials, and we'll see that there are both Gina and Jane's financial documents in the same file. So this can be especially useful if you want to see both documents in one file, and it's incredibly easy, incredibly fast to see those related contacts documents in the same file. Now, if you want to see those, as you notice here, the related checkbox is independent and individual for each panel. So it lets you customize what you see. And I can have the related checkbox checked for activity, but not for estimates. Or I can come over here into the financials tab and check the checkbox for estimates and uncheck it for all the rest here. So now I'm only seeing the related estimates between both files. Now, once you have the checkbox checked, this will stay checked across all related contacts. So if we went to Gina's file and into the financials tab, we'll see that the related checkbox has been checked for estimates, but not for budgets and material orders. Now, this can get confusing if you have a whole bunch of documents and you don't know which document belongs to which contact file. And that is actually incredibly easy to find out. There's a new column here that when you have the related checkbox checked, this new column shows up, and that is the related column right here. And this will tell you exactly which contact that document belongs to. These three estimates right here belong to Jane, whereas this one belongs to Gina. So that helps you keep things organized so you know which document belongs to which contact when you're looking at your related contacts. So as I mentioned earlier that we have a custom fields, I'm going to turn time over to Logan so he can talk more about those custom fields.
Absolutely. So JobNimbus stores a lot of information that everybody uses, like a name, an address, an email, things you need to do your business. But each of you own your own business and you have your own sort of information that you need to keep. And that is handled by custom fields. For example, the provided quote, the demoed, the not demoed. All of this might be specific to one business, but not to you if you don't run a hail damage company. So you can add and adjust these as you like in your settings. To get in there, tap on your name in the upper right-hand side and choose Settings. Then you'll find the Contact Field tab on the left-hand side. If we jump in, we'll see all of our available custom fields. We can edit them, hide them so that they can't be entered newly, but old information will be kept, or we can delete it and all the information that's inside it. You can see we've got quite a number of different types here. To add a new one, click the Add Field button on the right-hand side, and you'll be brought to this little pane. Here we can choose between 6 different types of custom fields. We can choose a date, which, like it sounds, is a date. You can use this for the day that you met the customer, day that you plan to start work, anything like that. You can choose to set it to a decimal and display it as currency, which is great for money, like how much you're going to make. You can also set it to a number, which is a whole number. You can't put a decimal point. Doesn't really work for money, but it could work for square feet on a roof, for instance. You can choose to set it as a text field, in which case you can use any of the characters on your keyboard, write out a sentence, whatever you like. The last two are a little bit more complex. Boolean is programmer language for yes or no, true or false. And what it will do is create a checkbox that you can mark or leave blank for no. And finally, you can choose an options list. An options list gives you a drop-down menu of choices that you set here. So if I say option 1, option 2, and so forth, all of these will appear in a drop-down menu. You can use up to 50 different options and up to 30 characters per option. You also might have noticed that at the bottom of each type of field, except Boolean, you can mark it as required. So if it is set to be a required field, then when I create a contact, I won't be able to save the contact until that field's been filled out. So if there's something that's vital to your business that you get every time, it's probably a great idea to set it as required because we're human, we make mistakes, we forget things. And this is kind of a way around that. Once you've created a custom field, it'll appear whenever you add or edit a contact. On the right-hand column below tags is where you'll see all of our custom fields. This is a Boolean, provided a quote. If it's a no, I leave it blank. If it's a yes, I mark it. Roofing color, here I can choose the different kinds from an option list. I also have a number field like these, where if I try to type in letters, it's just going to give me that red. Or a text field like this where I can do whatever I want. Now, if you want your custom fields to appear in a particular order, you can grab them and drop them. So for instance, if I want to put color option on top, then I drop it here. When I look at my contact, that'll be the first one to appear under tags. I'll put this back for whoever's using this account next. You'll notice that when you look at Gina, you're only seeing the custom fields that are filled out. We had a whole bunch that don't show up because we didn't put any information in. That's just to kind of try and keep it nice and tidy. What's really neat about these custom fields is that we can report on them. So I can create a contact report where I can add a column. You know, I really want to see what their roofing color was. And I'm going to filter this and say, you know what? I only want to see the people who have been demoed. So yes, show me the people who've been demoed. And now I'll see who's been demoed and what their roofing color is. You'll notice that only one of these is marked out. So if I wanted this for everybody, I might have wanted to set that as a required field. So that's how you can get this information and report on it and make sure that JobNimbus is working for you. But sometimes you need to share this information with more than just yourself. So Dan, would you like to talk about what we can do with contacts and how we can tell other people about it?
I'd be happy to. Thanks, Logan. So let's go back to Jane Smith's file here. Before we get into sharing, there's one last feature that we want to go over today, and that is the action menu. The action menu is found up here in your contacts information panel. You can access this menu from every single tab that when you're in the contacts file, because the information panel is always there at the very top. So let's take a look at it. When clicking on the three dots here pulls up the action menu. As you see, there are a lot of options that you can choose from. The most used options are change status, where you can change the status from in the same workflow type, or edit, where you can open the edit contact window and update any information that you need to. You can also merge two contacts together if you accidentally created a duplicate. With merging, make sure you are merging from the dominant contact, the contact you want to keep, as it will copy all of the information from the other contact and then delete that other contact. If you have jobs enabled, you can add a job. When you need to add a note to the contact, you can use the action menu from any tab to add a note, and the note will be added to the contact's activity feed. If you need to send an email, it will open up the add note window already selected with the email type. You can add an attachment, a task, a material order, invoice, credit memo, and payment, all from this menu. If you have budgets and work orders enabled, these options will also be available. Creating a document will allow you to let you use any document template that you've created in your settings and add it to the contact. If you, depending on which integrations you have enabled, you may see more options here, such as this send to hover. That's one of the integrations that we have with JobNimbus and one of the integrations that are enabled in this account. If you need to print your contact's information in file, select print. Or if you need to see your contact's address pinned on a map, such as Google Maps, you can click on Maps. As you see, there are a lot of things you can do, all from this action menu, from anywhere in the contacts file. The last option I want to focus on is share. This share feature allows you to share your contacts file and information with someone outside your JobNimbus account. It lets you share the information with people who are not team members. This is especially useful if you have subcontractors and need to share the contacts file with your subcontractor, and you don't want to give them, and you don't want to pay for a user account on your account. When you click on the share option, it'll bring up a window for you to share that information. We can share the contacts file with any of Jane's related contacts who have an email address. Although we are related with Gina, Gina does not have a valid email address, so we won't be able to share Jane's file with Gina. If you want to share Jane's file with Gina, we would need to go into Gina and make sure that she has an email address that we can send the link to. If we need to share Jane's file with a subcontractor, as you see, Jane already has a subcontractor, we'll need to relate that subcontractor to Jane. That way we can share Jane's information with the subcontractor. As of right now, we can only share Jane's file with her, as we have her email address right there. Once we have decided with whom we are sharing the contacts file, we can then choose attachments we want to share in the file. We can choose all attachments, or we can click this, let me choose, and we can go through all of these, or even use the attachment categories to choose which documents we want to share. After we've specified which documents, and we can even choose to include related documents from related contacts, we can then click this share button to send an email with a link to the shared file to our contact. So let's actually view what it looks like. Once we're not going to look at the email, but once the email is sent, it'll have a link that the person you sent the shared file to, they can click on it and it'll pull up their contact file. So let's switch over here and see what it looks like when someone clicks on that link. This is what they'll see, and this is what the shared file looks like. As you see, it is a very simplified version of the contacts file in JobNimbus. It contains some of the contacts information up here, and it also contains any attachments that we chose to share. With this one, we just chose to share all of the attachments in Jane's file. The subcontractor can choose to add a note to the contacts file by clicking Add Note. They can also add attachments or download any attachment that has been shared. This can be, as you can see, this is really useful for your subcontractors when they need to see your contacts file. And it really does take your usage of JobNimbus to the next level. So you can be sharing with people that need to see the file, such as insurance companies or the contact themselves. If they need to see anything in their file, you can just share their file with them, and they can open it up and take a look at what's been happening. So with that, we're super excited to have been able to share with all that with you. Logan, would you like to close us out here? Well, actually, sorry. First of all, before we close out, we should ask, are there any questions that anybody has?
Only one has come through so far, and they want to know if documents can be emailed to a related contact.
That is a great question. Apologize. Let me get back into JobNimbus here. That is a great question, something that I did fail to mention earlier. So thank you for asking that. Documents cannot be related documents cannot be emailed to a contact. So if we're looking in Jane Smith and we pull up an email, we cannot email Gina's documents to Jane, as those documents with Gina are in Gina's file, and we can only email Jane's documents or documents that are in Jane's file to Jane. Although, as you saw, we can share related documents, but we cannot email related documents.
You'll also see this come up if you have, for instance, an invoice that belongs to Gina and you're looking in Jane. You won't be able to add a payment to it because it's not Jane's invoice, it's Gina's invoice.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, that's Correct. So if you're having troubles with that and you're like, why can't I add a payment, or why can't I email this document? Go to your related contact to see whose contact that document really belongs to.
Do we have any other questions? Feel free to type it in the Q&A, the chat, or raise your hand and we'll call on you. Something else you might notice when you're looking in at your JobNimbus contacts is the numbers on the right-hand side. For instance, Jane is number 217. So this is called their contact number, and generally it is done sequentially. So our next contact after this would be 218 and so forth. You can change that in your settings with this next contact ID. So we can scroll it up or down, say, oh, I want my next contact to be 1000 or something like that. And we can also change the way that it appears. For instance, I might type something like a C dash contact ID. Then all my contact numbers will be a C dash contact number. I can also add in a few different types of field. Like I can get the year that they were created, or the day or month they were created. Something very common I do see is using the year function. So I would go year dash contact ID. And that would allow me to say, okay, I can see all of the contacts that were made in 2019, 2018, 2020, which is often useful when you're doing your reporting. All right, if there's no further questions, I think we're probably ready to wrap up. All right, thank you everybody for coming. I hope that you'll learn something useful. We've got just a few notes for you to remember. You can use the activity feed to see the activity and communications in your contacts. Don't forget that you can change it to look at particular categories. You can search for it and change it to all to see absolutely everything that happened. All of you have unique information that you need. Use the 6 types of custom fields to capture that and report on it. And especially when you're working with other people, don't forget that you can share with them the contact information so that they have what they need to do the jobs that you need them to do. We've run a number of these webinars now, and they're all going to appear on our YouTube channel. If you search in JobNimbus, you'll find it. If you've got any help that you need or any information that you're looking for, don't hesitate to reach out to our support team. They can talk about all the things we talked about here, or even more. Use the email and phone number there at the bottom of the screen. You can also reach out and check out our knowledge base, where we have articles and videos written by our very own Daniel, that can teach you more about JobNimbus on your own time. We'll continue running these. In fact, we'll be doing about one a week. If you're not signed up for JobNimbus, you can sign up for a free trial, and we'll be happy to have you on board and talk to you further about the software. Thanks everybody for coming. Colby, do you want to close us out?
Thanks so much, everyone. I hope everyone has a great day.